Could it be? With me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to this quick recap of a Week 13 game that generally I don't do this anymore. But this had a little bit more implications on it, and this one had a different feel to it. This felt like something we need to see again. This felt like a heavyweight championship bout that ended up in a split decision, and we're like, yo, I need part two of that. You know, there may have been a winner, but I want to see that again. It was close enough to the point where I need to see that one more time. All right. This felt like that kind of match, like a Triple G Canelo type of fight where you're like, hey, man, I need that one more time. And I don't think we're going to get it again. I told you guys that when we were all talking about how dominant the Ravens were after their Monday night performance versus the Rams, and we were talking about how dominant the 49ers were after their blowout victory on Sunday night versus the Green Bay Packers. And I said, generally, we don't get what we're asking for when we're talking about Super Bowls. Generally, we don't get the game that we all anticipate or want to see. The football gods, or in sports in general, they generally don't participate in that kind of gift to us as fans. All right, but in any event, this was a hell of a football game. All right, and I should have known it would come down to a just incredible field goal kick to win it, as Justin Tucker did it again. He did it again at the gun from about 48, 49, somewhere in there. That guy's so money, man. Wet conditions, a little bit of wind blowing, doesn't matter. All right, they said something ridiculous like this man has made like 24 straight fourth quarter field goals. Think about that for a second, because in those 24 makes, there are probably 4 or 5 game winners in there, man. I mean, seriously, that guy is ridiculous. And so is this Ravens football team. Now, it wasn't all pretty and it wasn't all good for them in this game. We'll get to some of that in a second. I don't want to keep you here very long, but this was a game about fourth downs, essentially. The 49ers got the first one of the game when Jimmy Garoppolo was able to connect with Deebo Samuel for a touchdown. Didn't see that one coming. All right, and that was the start of a bunch of fourth downs that would really determine the outcome of this game. You had the Ravens failing on a couple, the 49ers failing on one or two, but ultimately that final drive, the Ravens had to convert on fourth down, and they were able to do it. And they not only once, but twice on that final possession to keep that football and get in the field goal range and give themselves a shot to walk off a win here versus the red-hot San Francisco 49ers, and they were able to do that. But Lamar Jackson continues on his Heisman campaign. It wasn't all great for him through the air, and on a day where the weather was so impactful, you didn't anticipate it would be, but there were some throws that he made where I was like, wow, that's a hell of a throw. That touchdown to Mark Andrews, the touch, and at times I question Lamar Jackson's touch. Do you have it? Is that in your arsenal? All the things you've shown us, haven't seen a ton of touch out of him. That was feathery soft, man. Okay. And in this type of weather, I didn't expect that kind of touch. I didn't. And that was a hell of a throw. Then there was a third down fastball that he threw in zone coverage to Mark Andrews. Andrews was fantastic in this game, by the way. But Lamar Jackson just had just as many rushing yards as he did passing yards in this football game. And that was really what carried the Ravens offensively, was his legs and his arm, and the combination of the two to combine for over 200 yards of total offense on the strength of just Lamar Jackson himself on a day that was wet and nasty and the conditions weren't conducive to throwing the football that effectively. His legs were outstanding. But give the 49ers credit. A lot of those yards came in the first half of this game. Not a lot of Lamar Jackson fireworks in the second half, okay? The juking and the, breaking dudes' ankles, all that shit came in the first half. That second half, those boys tightened up the reins on Lamar Jackson and made it a lot tougher for him to make plays. And they worked for everything they got in that second half, did the Ravens. And got to credit the 49ers. Speaking of 49ers, they have nothing to be ashamed of coming away from this game. I thought the fumble by Jimmy Garoppolo was a big turning point early in the ball game. I thought they had a little bit of momentum, a little bit of something going on the road there, and that fumble really turned the tide back in the favor of the Ravens. And I thought the Ravens from that point forward played confident football. Again, wasn't the cleanest, especially their run defense in this game. Credit the 49ers. I've said this all along. Kyle Shanahan can run on anybody. I don't give a damn who it is. They can drag out the 85 Bears. and you just put any Shanahan back there with the headset on, they're going to run the damn football. I really don't care what running back it is, okay? It could be Matt Breida. It could be Tevin Coleman, or as the case it was today, it could be Raheem Mostert. They're going to run the goddamn football. And Raheem Mostert was a beast today, over 100 yards rushing for him, or only something like 16 or 19 carries. So he was outstanding, but again, the Ravens bent but never broke in this game defensively, and that's why they were able to come away with this victory. For as many yards as they gave up on the ground, they didn't allow those yards to turn into points a lot of times. And Jimmy Garoppolo, despite the touchdown early in this game, wasn't big. And again, the weather was huge in this game in terms of the passing game. You didn't anticipate either one of these quarterbacks really being able to wing it around the field. And so you're going to have to use your run game and maybe some timely turnovers or some timely stops. And both of those teams got that in the second half of this game. Like I said, from the 49ers standpoint, you did all you could do defensively, especially after the rough start with Lamar Jackson being able to use his legs and hurt you there, and Mark Andrews being able to hurt you in the pass game. I thought they did some really good things defensively, especially in the second half schematically, to really slow down Lamar Jackson, really bottling him up, keeping him inside the pocket, not allowing him to get outside of the contain. And I thought they did some great things to really grind the scoring to a halt in this game. And again, credit both of these defenses. They showed up when they had to force stops. And this game, 17-17 for a long stretch of the second half. And I felt like the first team to 20 was going to win. And that team ended up being the Baltimore Ravens. It was a hell of a contest. Again, one that I feel like we need to see again. I don't think we will, but I think it's one that I definitely would love to see come February in Super Bowl 54. I'd love to see it. And these two teams embody everything that we think a Super Bowl contender is supposed to look like. Elite defense, a run game that takes pressure off of the quarterback, and a quarterback. And I really feel this about Jimmy Garoppolo. I know a lot of people don't. And I said this even after the loss versus Seattle, and a lot of people were killing Jimmy then. I said, look, I think that Jimmy Garoppolo can get it done. And I didn't think he was the reason they lost this football game by any stretch of the imagination. He does need to stop fumbling the football, though. And there are two losses. There's a common thread there with him fumbling the football. He's got to stop doing that. And on that particular play, there was nothing there to be gained. All right. At that point, you just need to go down. And he was still kind of fighting. And Chuck Clark comes from behind. Great play by him to knock it loose. But you got to know when to fold in that particular situation. And I just thought if Jimmy can have a little bit more awareness about what's around him, it'll serve him well. But I think Jimmy Garoppolo was solid in this football game. I didn't think they got the ball nearly enough to George Kittle. You know, I think he only had that one, and that was a great catch. But it was only one catch for George Kittle in this football game. In order for them to be effective offensively, he's by far and away their best weapon. You got to get him football touches. You got to get him opportunities. I don't care if it's in the screen game. And I didn't see nearly enough screens for a team that a couple of weeks ago versus Arizona that ran about 14 screens in that game. For them to not, on a wet, nasty day where you think screens could be a huge part of the outcome, you know, I didn't see nearly enough screens. I didn't see nearly enough opportunities to just get the ball in the hands of a playmaker like a Juszczyk, like a Kittle, you know, or one of these guys that could break a game. You know, Tevin Coleman on the screen, you get him out in space all of a sudden. Raheem Mostert, we saw him on the touchdown, the 40-yard touchdown run. You know, get him out in space. Get him an opportunity. And on a day like today where it was wet, it was nasty, and the traction isn't that great, and you get a defender like on the Raheem Mostert touchdown run coming across the field, all he's got to do is stick his foot in the ground and cut back. That guy's going to slip and go right past him, and he's going to walk into the end zone. I didn't think there was enough screens for the San Francisco 49ers to try to make the game easier, but that's nor here nor there. Credit the Ravens defensively. Credit the 49ers defensively. It was a slugfest. Somebody had to lose. It's a shame, but the Ravens were able to get it done on that final drive. It was not pretty. That final drive was not pretty, but it was gritty, and most importantly, it helped net them a dub. And so they get the win. Both teams leave this game at 10-2. The Ravens continue their hot streak. They're now at 9 straight wins on the season. They're playing fantastic football. I don't know who's going to stop them, to be honest with you. It was that was the kind of game that I could have seen them losing, but they found a way to win. And now they have to go on the road to New Orleans. Or no. I keep thinking it's them. It's San Francisco who now has to go on the roads at New Orleans. And that could be for the number 1 seed in the NFC when it's all said and done. So that's a massive game. So if you're San Francisco, you can't allow this loss to turn into 2 losses, because next week's game is much bigger than this week's game, because that one has implications in your own conference. This one just felt big because of the 2 teams and the way they've been playing of late. There have been, essentially 2 juggernauts meeting at the midpoint of the season, but now you've got to wipe this one from the memory bank. As tough as it was of a loss, you got to go on the road in a big-time environment in the Superdome and try to come away with a victory, because, again, that's going to have more implications than the loss this week. So you got to try to go get that one. If you're Baltimore, it's a massive win. And it just continues to further home that point that I think we're looking at this league's MVP for the 2019 season, Lamar Jackson, over 200 yards of total offense. And when his team needed him, that quarterback sneak was a thing of beauty. The pass out in the flats on that 4th down that got the first down, that was a really good play there by Lamar Jackson. I just thought when plays needed to be made in this particular game, he did have the fumble. Great job by the defender for the 49ers, stripping that one out. You don't see Jackson put it on the carpet very often. I thought that was a very big turnover in the game too, because at that point it seemed like the Ravens were starting to wrestle away all control of the game, and they were starting to take full control of the momentum in the game. And that turnover kind of halted everything early in the second half. And I think that was the basis for them pretty much being stagnant offensively. Once that turnover happened, it was a field position game, and neither team could really wrestle the field position completely away because of the 4th down conversions, as I said, or attempts. As I said, no team really wanted to fork over the ball. I thought there were some opportunities to punt. Teams decided to go for it on 4th down, and they didn't get it. And so no one ever found themselves pinned in a game that I thought if you could just pin someone deep, force a punt, and get the football on a day like today where the conditions weren't that great, you're thinking maybe a punt that ends up dying, inside the other team's 40-yard line or so, and now you got an opportunity to go down and get some points. But no one was willing to do that. Everyone wanted to roll the dice on 4th down, and unfortunately, most of the time today, teams were rolling them up and coming up short on these 4th down attempts. But nonetheless, it was a hell of a ball game, well played by both teams. Again, it's a damn shame someone had to lose, but the Ravens found ways to win. And I thought it was smart on their part to go for it on those 4th downs, because with the way the game was going, had they punted the football, I don't know if they get it back. I think whomever had it last in that particular situation was going to end up winning the game. And the Ravens, for that final 6-minute stretch there, because it was a time of possession type of game. It was one of those games that went very quickly. I mean, this game was over at almost 4:00. So this was a very fast-moving game. Generally, in these type of conditions, you get a fast-moving game because there's a lot of running and not a lot of incompletions, not a lot of passes. So you felt like whomever had the ball last was going to win, and the Ravens, fortunately enough for them, were able to convert on a couple of 4th downs and keep that football, bleed the clock, and win this on a walk-off. Justin Tucker, just incredible field goal as they win this football game 20-17. I don't know about you, but I'd love to see this one again in the first weekend of February. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. Come back and join me for the recap of tonight's Sunday night game, Patriots at Texans, on the Sunday night overtime program. But until then, enjoy the rest of the afternoon games. We'll come back, reconvene at the conclusion of Patriots at Texans. Leave your comments down below about what you thought about this game. Maybe I missed something, some turning points for you, some things to look at. Leave it all down in the comment section, as I would love to read your take on this heavyweight championship bout that we got here in Baltimore between two of the best teams, if not the 2 best teams in all of the National Football League. Like this video. Subscribe to the Louie T Network if you haven't already done so for more great content. Also, share this video if at all possible. And don't forget, check out the Louie T Network podcast, available on Stitcher, Google Music Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, and of course, the website, louietnetwork.net. I'll see you guys a little bit later on. You guys enjoy the rest of the festivities. Have a good one. Louie T Network.